Imagine stepping onto a freezing, wind-whipped pitch in Manchester.
Oh, yeah, miserable condition.
Right, just brutally cold. And you are carrying the crushing weight of an entire nation's expectations. Then, within the first 10 minutes, your absolute worst nightmare basically comes to life on the scoreboard.
It's the worst case scenario.
Exactly. So today, we're looking at what happens when a team's back is completely broken early on and how they miraculously, put the pieces back together. We are diving deep into the match report of Scotland's historic maiden T20 World Cup triumph over Ireland.
Such a fantastic match.
It really was. Okay, let's unpack this because we aren't just here to read you a box score, right?
Yeah.
We want to understand the actual anatomy of this win. Like, how do you take a disastrous start, brutal weather conditions, and this mounting psychological pressure and somehow forge a victory out of it?
Well, the stakes framing this match really set the stage for everything that follows. For Scotland, this is an existential fight. They are a squad just desperate for their first ever win at a T20 World Cup.
Yeah, they've never done it before.
Exactly. They have never stood at the summit of this particular mountain. And then on the other side of the pitch, Ireland carries a completely different, but I'd argue an even heavier psychological burden.
Oh, the losing streak.
Right. They entered this match desperate to break a brutal 18-game winless streak in this tournament. So, we're looking at a scenario where someone is going to make history and someone is going back into a nightmare.
Man, that context makes the opening moments so much more intense. We start in Manchester, and the conditions are, they're just miserable.
Classic Manchester weather.
Yeah, exactly. It's heavily overcast, relentlessly windy, and crucial to the tactics of this game. The pitch itself is incredibly slow. Even the outfield is slow, which, totally changes the physics of how the game is played.
You see that physical reality dictate the strategy right away when Ireland wins the toss and chooses to bowl.
Which is a huge move.
Oh, it's a loud, aggressive, tactical declaration. By putting Scotland in to bat under heavy clouds on a sluggish surface, Ireland is, they're leveraging the environment to maximize early pressure.
So for you listening, think about starting a massive high-stakes project at work, and the entire system just crashes in the first 10 minutes.
That's a perfect way to put it.
That's exactly what Scotland's power play looked like.
Yeah.
They finished the first 6 overs at a dismal 37 for 2, and they only managed to scrape together, 9 runs in the final 2 overs of that period?
Yeah, just 9 runs. It was rough.
But I want to dig into the mechanics of that. If the pitch is slow, doesn't that just mean the bowlers have to work harder to get pace on the ball? Like, why was it so devastating for the Scottish batters?
Actually, it shifts the entire burden of power generation onto the batter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, on a true fast pitch, a batter can just use the bowler's pace, right? You rely on timing and deflection to find the boundary. But on a slow surface, the ball holds up.
It just doesn't come onto the bat.
Exactly. It doesn't come on. That means if you want to clear the infield, you have to manufacture all the kinetic energy yourself. It totally throws off your biomechanics and forces you to overcommit to your shots.
And the Irish bowlers, specifically Eamon Maguire and Ava Canning, they completely exploited that overcommitment, didn't they?
Oh, masterfully.
Yeah, Maguire, bowling left-arm spin, was finding incredible turn and drift. I want to focus on that drift for a second. The report highlights how Maguire tricked Darcy Carter while Carter was midair, eventually hitting the middle stump.
Such a crazy visual.
Right. How does a batter get beaten so badly in flight that they're physically airborne when the ball goes under them?
Well, that's the magic of lateral drift in heavy atmospheric conditions. Maguire isn't just relying on the ball spinning off the pitch after it bounces. She's using the overcast, windy conditions to make the ball move sideways in the air, before it even pitches.
Wow. So Carter just misreads it completely.
Yeah, Carter advanced down the wicket, committing her body weight forward to generate that power we just talked about. But because the ball drifted late in the air, Carter's brain basically miscalculated the interception point.
Oh, man.
By the time she realized the ball wasn't where she thought it was, her feet were off the ground, she was totally disconnected from her base, and the ball just dipped right under her bat.
That is just a phenomenal piece of bowling, totally dismantling the batter's spatial awareness. And on the other end, Ava Canning sets this brilliant trap for Kathryn Fraser.
Oh, that catch was amazing.
Yeah, she lures Fraser into a poorly executed smash that results in a spectacular catch by Alice Tector. Again, it's that forced overcommitment. So Scotland is reeling. They can't find fluidity, the outfield is stopping everything short of the boundary, and their top order is back in the pavilion.
They are structurally compromised at that point.
Hmm.
When you are 37 for 2 in those conditions, the traditional T20 playbook just goes out the window.
You can't just smash your way out of it.
Right, because the pitch actively punishes aggression.
Which brings us to the most fascinating pivot in the match. Instead of collapsing under the weight of the slow pitch in the early wickets, Scotland finds their anchor.
Yes, the Bryce sisters.
Exactly. They lean on the Bryce sisters, Sarah and Kathryn, who step up to the crease and completely rewrite the momentum of the game. And here's where it gets really interesting. They put together a massive 106-run partnership.
It's just an incredible feat in those conditions.
They drag Scotland from that 37 for 2 disaster all the way to a dominant position.
What's fascinating here is the psychological warfare inherent in their batting partnership. The match report notes how meticulously they rebuilt the innings by constantly alternating the strike.
But wait, I got to challenge that strategy for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
If the outfield is like quicksand and the pitch is sluggish, isn't taking quick singles inherently risky? Like, you can't trust the bounce to get the ball safely past the infielders, so aren't they risking running themselves out in a panic?
Well, that is exactly why it requires such elite situational awareness and,
Yeah.
why it's so devastating to the fielding team when executed perfectly.
So the risk is the point.
Sort of. Rotating the strike isn't just about accumulating runs safely. It's about completely scrambling the bowler's mental map.
Huh. What do you mean?
A bowler spends an entire over calibrating their line and length to a specific batter's stance, reach, and weaknesses, right? If the Bryce sisters take a single on the first ball, the bowler suddenly has to recalculate everything for a batter with a completely different profile.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. By constantly swapping ends, Sarah and Kathryn prevented the Irish bowlers from ever settling into a rhythm. They basically neutralized the threat of the slow pitch by refusing to play the high-risk boundary game Ireland wanted them to play.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
They're essentially resetting the bowler's targeting computer every single delivery. But, the environment wasn't totally under their control, and the wild Manchester wind actually injected some chaos into the rebuild. There's this moment where Kathryn Bryce backs away from a short ball bowled by Orla Prendergast.
No, I remember this.
She hits it towards sweeper cover, but a fielder deep inside the rope completely misjudges the flight, and it just sails over her head for a boundary.
Yeah, that is a prime example of how extreme weather alters the geometry of the field. A fielder develops an instinct for the trajectory of a cricket ball based on, thousands of hours of practice.
Right, muscle memory.
Right. But a heavy crosswind grabs the ball at the apex of its flight and pushes it back or carries it further. The fielder's internal algorithm basically fails. They step in when they should step back, and a routine catch becomes a momentum-shifting boundary.
And that specific boundary felt like the spark that ignited the rest of the innings. Because we hit the 11th over, and Sarah Bryce finally explodes against the leg spinner, Cara Murray.
Yeah, she really let loose.
She hits 2 fours, and then launches a massive 6 over wide long on. And that 6 brings up Scotland's first ever 50-run partnership in a women's T20 World Cup. It's like a pressure valve suddenly bursting open.
Because they earned the right to attack. By surviving the hardest phase of the pitch and forcing the bowlers into defensive mindsets, they created a platform where that aggression was calculated rather than desperate.
Right, it wasn't a panic shot.
Exactly. And Kathryn joins in, taking Maguire for 2 fours in the next over, and she eventually secures her 12th T20 International half-century off just 32 balls.
But I'm looking at the culmination of this partnership, and I want your read on the locker room psychology of what happens next.
Okay.
Sarah Bryce is on 49 runs. She attempts a cut shot, catches an edge to the keeper, and gets out. She misses her half-century by a single run.
Ugh, agonizing.
When a player does that much phenomenal work to rescue their country from a total collapse, but falls one agonizing run short of the milestone, how does the team process that? Is it celebrated purely as a rescue mission, or does that missed personal milestone hang over the dugout?
Honestly, in a professional locker room, especially during a World Cup where a team is hunting their first ever win, personal milestones are entirely secondary.
You really think so?
Absolutely. They're secondary to the structural integrity of the innings. While Sarah might feel a fleeting personal sting, the dugout recognizes that her job was unequivocally accomplished.
Yeah, she did the heavy lifting.
That 106-run stand was the bedrock of the total. She absorbed the pressure, she exhausted the frontline bowlers, and protected the middle order.
And the proof is in the final tally. Because even though Ireland rallies in the final 4 overs, giving up just 19 runs and getting Kathryn out for 60, Scotland still posts a massive 161 for 5.
It's a huge total.
They survived the quicksand and built an absolute fortress.
Yeah, a total of 161 on a slow, gripping pitch in windy conditions is formidable. It completely alters the psychological landscape of the second innings. Ireland is no longer just playing against the Scottish bowlers, they're playing against the weight of the scoreboard.
Which brings us to the Irish chase. And for you listening, imagine treading water while someone is slowly dropping weights into your pockets.
That sounds terrifying.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's what a steep run chase feels like. You are fighting the water, but you're also fighting a mathematical certainty that is actively pulling you under.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, chasing 162 in heavy conditions introduces a concept we can call the mathematical tipping point of risk.
Okay, I like that. Break that down.
When the required run rate climbs too high, a batter's fundamental training actually becomes a liability.
Wait, how so? Why would training be a liability?
Because fundamental training teaches you to respect good bowling, right?
Yeah.
You defend the good balls and you punish the bad ones. But when the math demands nearly 10 runs and over, you no longer have the luxury of waiting for a bad ball.
Oh, you have to force it.
Exactly. You're forced to manufacture boundaries out of excellent deliveries. You have to step out of your crease, play across the line, or attempt scoops and sweeps against balls that technically should be defended. The math forces you to introduce inherent catastrophic risk into your technique.
Wow. And we see Ireland try to fight that math right out of the gate. Alana Dalzell effortlessly drives Kathryn Bryce through mid-on for a boundary on the 3rd ball of the opening over.
Beautiful shot.
It looks like they're going to take the fight directly to Scotland. But Kathryn Bryce, who remember just anchored her team with a bat, strikes right back. On the very last ball of that exact same over, Dalzell hits a powerful straight drive, and Kathryn takes a crisp, immediate return catch.
That wicket is a massive structural blow. It immediately telegraphs to the Irish dressing room that Scotland is not just going to sit back and defend the boundaries, they are aggressively hunting wickets.
Amy Hunter tries to stabilize things for Ireland. She basically becomes the absolute lone bright spot, hitting a barrage of boundaries in the 4th over.
She was fighting hard.
But she's essentially fighting a one-woman war, because the rest of the top order is just crumbling around her. Her captain, Gabby Lewis, tries to force the issue, charging down the pitch, but she gets stumped by Catherine Fraser for 11 runs off 19 balls.
And Lewis's dismissal is a direct symptom of that mathematical pressure we just discussed.
Right, because of the dot balls.
Yeah, 11 runs off 19 balls on a slow pitch means she was chewing up deliveries without moving the scoreboard. The required run rate is ticking upward with every single dot ball, forcing her to abandon her shape and charge down the track, which leads directly to the stumping.
By the end of 10 overs, Ireland is sitting at 58 for 2, and the asking rate, like the runs they need per over to win, has climbed to 10.40.
That's a steep hill.
Let's really look at that number, 10.40 runs per over. How does a team even function when the deadline accelerates that violently?
Well, at 10.40, panic replaces process. Hunter was acting as the anchor, but when the rate gets that high, even the anchor has to abandon safety.
Yeah, she has to swing.
In the 12th over, Fraser comes back and bowls Hunter out for 39. And once you lose the one player who had actually managed to decode the pace of the pitch, that difficult mathematical equation instantly morphs into an impossible one.
And this is where we see the anatomy of a true collapse. The math was already bad for Ireland, but Scotland didn't just let them slowly bleed out. They delivered a fatal structural knockout punch in the form of Kirsty Gordon's 13th over.
Oh, what an over.
So, what does this all mean? Let's break down exactly how Gordon dismantled them. She takes 3 wickets in a single over, reducing Ireland to ruins at 70 for 6. But she didn't just get lucky, right? She systematically exploited their panic.
Oh, completely. It's a masterclass in bowling to the match situation. Gordon bowls Rebecca Stokel with the delivery that straightens just enough to crash into the off stump.
Okay, let me stop you there. Why did it straighten, and why did that beat Stokel?
Because Stokel is anticipating the natural angle of the left arm spin. She's expecting the ball to turn away or hold its line across her body.
Right, playing the angle.
Exactly. But Gordon alters her release just slightly. perhaps using the seam or, a subtly different finger position, so the ball grips the slow pitch and straightens up instead. Stokel plays for the angle, leaves a gap, and the ball just crashes into the stumps.
Brilliant. Then Leah Paul steps out, trying to hit the ball on the rise, and hits a straightforward return catch right back to Gordon.
Again, this is a symptom of the required run rate. Paul has to force the issue. She steps out to meet the ball before it spins, but Gordon sees her coming and adjusts her flight, dipping the ball earlier than Paul expects.
Ah, so she's beaten in flight.
Right. Paul is beaten in the flight, hits it off the bottom of the bat rather than the sweet spot, and just pops it back to the bowler.
And finally, Alice Tector is undone by a ball that simply keeps its line, leaving Gordon sitting on a hat trick. 3 wickets, entirely ripping the engine out of the Irish run chase. And, there's an incredible piece of trivia about Kirsty Gordon buried in this report.
Oh, the national team history.
Yeah. She is the first woman ever to represent 2 different countries at the T20 World Cup. She previously played for England, an established cricketing powerhouse, and now she is delivering this lethal spell for Scotland.
That background just cannot be overstated. Playing in high-stakes matches for a powerhouse like England builds this elite psychological resilience. She's operated in pressure cookers before.
She's seen it all.
Exactly. She looked at a panicking Irish middle order, understood exactly how the climbing run rate was destroying their footwork, and relentlessly targeted the stumps.
Ireland manages a frantic, desperate final stand from Orla Prendergast. She actually smashes a 6 and a 4 in the 17th over, but, it's pure mathematical chaos by that point. The required rate shoots up to over 15 runs and over.
Just impossible.
And the culmination of all that pressure is a tragedy for Ireland. Yeah. A late call for a single, a frantic dive, and Prendergast is run out.
Yeah, run out in the death overs of a steep chase is almost always the result of a complete breakdown in communication. It's fueled entirely by the desperation of the scoreboard.
Kathryn Fraser and Amy Maguire step in to clean up the tail, and Ireland ultimately collapses to 121 all out. Scotland wins by 40 runs.
What a margin.
The contrast between these 2 dugouts at the final whistle is just staggering. You have the historic, unbridled elation of Scotland, securing their first ever victory at this level, having executed a brilliant tactical recovery after a horrific start. And on the other side, Ireland's drop continues. 18 T20 World Cup games, 0 wins.
This raises an important question, though, about the compounding mental toll of a streak like that.
Yeah, how do you even recover?
Professional athletes are trained to treat every match in isolation, right? To focus purely on the next ball. But when you carry the historical weight of 17 previous World Cup losses onto the field, the pressure must be suffocating. The bat feels heavier, the gaps in the field look smaller, and every single dot ball feels like an indictment. Scotland managed the imperfections of the day, but Ireland was basically swallowed by them.
For you listening, this match is a profound study in how quickly momentum can be stolen back if you hold your nerve. The Bryce sisters proved that you don't need perfect conditions to build a fortress, you just need to systematically neutralize the opponent's rhythm. And Kirsty Gordon proved that when the math forces your opponent into a corner, elite execution will shatter them.
Totally agree.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over, building strictly on that fascinating detail about Kirsty Gordon. Remember, she played for England, an established giant of the sport, before coming to play for Scotland. How does wearing a different nation's jersey fundamentally change an athlete's psychological approach on the world stage?
Good question.
Does the immense pressure of trying to drag an underdog country to their first ever win provide a different kind of fuel than the heavy expectation of simply maintaining a powerhouse's dominance? Does the underdog jersey free you to make history, or does it weigh you down? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.